Maasai, or Acts, chapter 20, verse 3. And Sha'ul, having encouraged them with many words, came to Greece, where he spent 3 months. When he was about to sail to Syria, he decided to return through Macedonia, as a plot was made against him by the Yehudim, and he was accompanied by Sopater of Beroea, and Aristarchus, and Secundos of the Thessalonians, and Gaius of Derbe, and Timotheus, and Tychicus, and Trophimus of Asia. And these, going ahead, waited for us at Troas, and we sailed away from Philippi after the days of unleavened bread, and came to them at Troas in 5 days, where we stayed 7 days. And on day 1 of the week, the taught ones having gathered together to break bread, Sha'ul, intending to depart the next day, was reasoning with them and was extending the word till midnight. And there were many lamps in the upper room where they were assembled. And a certain young man, by the name of Eutychus, was sitting in a window, being overpowered by a deep sleep. As Sha'ul kept on reasoning, he was overcome by sleep and fell down from the 3rd story and was picked up dead. And Sha'ul, having gone down, fell on him and embracing him said, "Do not be upset, for his life is in him." Then going up again and having broken bread and eaten, he talked a long while, even till daybreak, and so went forth. And they brought the young man in alive, and were encouraged not a little. And we, going ahead to the ship, sailed to Assos, intending to take Sha'ul on board there, for so he had arranged, intending himself to go on foot. And when he met us at Assos, we took him on board and came to Mytilene. And from there we sailed, and the next day came opposite Chios. And the next day we arrived at Samos and remained at Trogulion. The following day we came to Miletus. For Sha'ul had decided to sail past Ephesus so that he might lose no time in Asia, for he was hurrying to be at Jerusalem, if possible, on the day of the festival of Shavuot. And from Miletus he sent to Ephesus and called for the elders of the assembly. And when they had come to him, he said to them, "You know from the first day that I came to Asia how I was with you all the time, serving the Master with all humility, with many tears and trials, which befell me by the plotting of the Yehudim, as I kept back no matter that was profitable, but proclaimed it to you, and taught you publicly and from house to house, witnessing to Yehudim and also to Greeks, repentance toward Elohim and belief in our Master Yeshua Messiah. And now, I go bound in the Spirit to Jerusalem, not knowing what's going to meet me there, except that the set-apart Spirit witnesses in every city, saying that chains and pressures await me. But I do not count my life of any value to me, so that I might accomplish my mission with joy, and the service which I received from the Master Yeshua, to bear witness to the good news of the favor of Elohim. And now, I know that you all, among whom I went about proclaiming the reign of Elohim, shall see my face no more. Therefore I witness to you this day that I'm clear from the blood of all. For I kept not back from declaring to you all the counsel of Elohim. Therefore take heed to yourselves and to all the flock, among which the set-apart Spirit has made you overseers, to shepherd the assembly of Elohim, which he's purchased with his own blood. For I know this, that after my departure savage wolves shall come in among you, not sparing the flock. Also, from among yourselves men shall arise, speaking distorted teachings to draw the taught ones after themselves. Therefore watch, remembering that for 3 years, night and day, I did not cease to warn each one with tears. And now, brothers, I commit you to Elohim and to the word of his favor, which is able to build you up and give you an inheritance among all those having been set apart. I've coveted no one's silver or gold or garments, and you yourselves know that these hands supplied my needs and for those who were with me. All this I did show you by laboring like this, that you ought to help the weak. And remember the words of Master Yeshua that he said, it's more blessed to give than to receive. And having said this, he knelt down and prayed with them all. And there was much weeping among them all. And falling on Sha'ul's neck, they kissed him, distressed most of all, because of the word which he had said, that they'd see his face no more. And they went with him to the ship. Acts 21. And it came to be, when we'd torn ourselves away from them and had set sail, we ran a straight course and came to Kos, and the next day to Rhodes, and from there to Patara. And having found a ship passing over to Phoenicia, we went aboard and set sail. Having sighted Cyprus, and having passed it on the left, we sailed to Soria and landed at Sor, for the ship was to unload her cargo there. And having found taught ones, we remained there 7 days. And they told Sha'ul through the Spirit not to go up to Jerusalem. And when it came to be that our days were ended, we left and went on, all of them accompanying us, with wives and children, till we were out of the city. And kneeling down on the beach, we prayed. And having embraced one another, we boarded the ship, and they returned to their homes. And when we had completed our voyage from Sor, we came to Ptolemais. And having greeted the brothers, we stayed with them 1 day. And on the next day we left and came to Caesarea, and went into the house of Philip the evangelist, who was one of the 7, and stayed with him. Now, this one had 4 maiden daughters who prophesied. And as we were staying many days, a certain prophet named Haggai came down from Yehuda, and having come to us, he took the girdle of Sha'ul, bound his own hands and feet, and said, thus says the set-apart Spirit, thus shall the Yehudim at Jerusalem bind the man who owns this girdle and deliver him into the hands of the nations. And when we heard this, both we and those from that place begged him not to go up to Jerusalem. And Sha'ul answered, what do you mean by weeping and breaking my heart? For I'm ready not only to be bound, but also to die at Jerusalem for the name of the Master Yeshua. And as he could not be persuaded, we ceased, saying, let the desire of the Master be done. And after those days, having made ready, we went up to Jerusalem. And also some of the taught ones from Caesarea went with us, and brought with them one Manasseh of Cyprus, an early taught one with whom we were to lodge. And when we had arrived in Jerusalem, the brothers received us gladly. And on the following day, Sha'ul went in with us to Yaakov, and all the elders came. And having greeted them, he was relating one by one what Elohim had done among the nations through his service. And when they heard it, they praised the Master and said to him, you see, brother, how many thousands of Yehudim there are who have believed, and all are ardent for the Torah. But they've been informed about you, that you teach all the Yehudim who are among the nations to forsake Moshe, saying not to circumcise the children, nor to walk according to the practices. What then is it? They shall certainly hear that you've come. So do this, what we say to you. We have 4 men who have taken a vow. Take them and be cleansed with them, and pay their expenses so that they shave their heads. And all shall know that what they have been informed about you is not so, but that you yourself also walk orderly, keeping the Torah. But concerning the nations who believe, we've written and decided that they should keep themselves from what is offered to idols and blood, and what is strangled and whoring. Then Sha'ul took the men on the next day, and having been cleansed with them, went into the set-apart place to announce the completion of the days of separation until the offering should be presented for each one of them. And when the 7 days were almost ended, the Yehudim from Asia, seeing him in the set-apart place, were stirring up all the crowd, and they laid hands on him, crying out, "Men of Israel, help! This is the man who's teaching all men everywhere against the people and the Torah and this place. And besides, he also brought Greeks into the set-apart place and has profaned this set-apart place." Because they had previously seen Trophimus the Ephesian with him in the city, whom they thought that Sha'ul had brought into the set-apart place. And the entire city was moved, and the people rushed together, seized Sha'ul, and dragged him out of the set-apart place. And immediately the doors were shut. And while they were seeking to kill him, a report came to the commander of the company of soldiers that all Yerushalayim was in confusion. At once he took soldiers and captains and ran down to them. And they, having seen the commander and the soldiers, stopped beating Sha'ul. Then the commander came near and took him and commanded him to be bound with 2 chains, and was asking who he was and what he had done. And in the crowd some were shouting this and others that, and not being able to ascertain the truth because of the uproar, he commanded him to be taken into the barracks. And when he came to the stairs, he had to be carried by the soldiers because of the violence of the crowd. For a large number of the people followed after, crying out, "Away with him!" And as Sha'ul was about to be led into the barracks, he said to the commander, "Am I allowed to say somewhat to you?" And he said, "Do you know Greek? Are you not the Mitzrite, who some time ago stirred up a revolt and led the 4,000 assassins out into the wilderness?" But Sha'ul replied, "I am a Yehudi from Tarsos, in Cilicia, a citizen of no mean city, and I beg you, allow me to speak to the people." And having given him permission, Sha'ul, standing on the stairs, motioned with his hands to the people. And when there was a great silence, he spoke in the Hebrew language, saying, chapter 22, "Men, brothers, and fathers, hear my defense before you now." And when they heard that he spoke to them in the Hebrew language, they kept greater silence. And he said, "I am indeed a Yehudi, having been born in Tarsos of Cilicia, but brought up in this city, at the feet of Gamliel, having been instructed according to the exactness of the Torah of our fathers, being ardent for Elohim as you all are today, who persecuted this way to the death, binding and delivering up into prisons both men and women, as also the high priest bears me witness, and all the eldership, from whom I also received letters to the brothers, and went to Damascus to bring in chains even those who were there to Jerusalem to be punished. And it came to be, as I was journeying and coming near Damascus about noon, suddenly a great light shone around me out of the heaven, and I fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to me, Sha'ul, Sha'ul, why do you persecute me? And I answered, Who are you, Master? And he said to me, I am Yeshua of Nazareth, whom you persecute. And those who were with me indeed saw the light and were afraid, but they did not hear his voice speaking to me. And I said, What shall I do, Master? And the Master said to me, Rise up, go into Damascus, and there you shall be told all that you have been appointed to do. And as I could not see because of the esteem of that light, being led by the hand of those who were with me, I came into Damascus. And a certain Hananiah, a dedicated man according to the Torah, being well spoken of by all the Yehudim dwelling there, came to me and stood by and said to me, Brother Sha'ul, look up. And at that same hour I looked up at him, and he said, The Elohim of our fathers has appointed you to know his desire, and to see the righteous one, and to hear the voice from his mouth. Because you shall be his witness to all men of what you have seen and heard. And now, why do you delay? Rise up, be immersed, and wash away your sins, calling on the name of Yehovah. And it came to be when I turned to Jerusalem, while I was praying in the set-apart place, I came to be in a trance. And I saw him saying to me, Hurry and get out of Jerusalem speedily, because they shall not accept your witness concerning me. And I said, Master, they know that in every congregation I was imprisoning and beating those who believe on you. And when the blood of your witness Stephanos was shed, I also was standing by giving my approval to his death and keeping the garments of those who were killing him. And he said to me, Go, because I shall send you far from here to the nations. And they were listening to him until this word. Then they lifted up their voice, saying, Away with such a one from the earth, for it's not fit that he should live. And as they were shouting and tearing their garments and throwing dust into the air, the commander ordered him to be brought into the barracks and said he should be examined by flogging in order to find out why they were shouting against him. And as they were stretching him out with straps, Sha'ul said to the captain who was standing by, Is it permitted for you to whip a man who is Roman and uncondemned? And when the captain heard, he went and reported it to the commander, saying, Watch what you're about to do, for this man's a Roman. And having come, the commander said to him, Say to me, Are you a Roman? He said, Yes. And the commander answered, With a large sum I obtained this citizenship. And Sha'ul said, But I was born so. Then at once those who were about to examine him withdrew from him, and the commander was also afraid after he found out that he was a Roman, and because he had bound him. On the next day, intending to know for certain why he was accused by the Yehudim, he released him and commanded the chief priests and all their council to come, and brought Sha'ul down and set him before them. Chapter 23. And Sha'ul, looking intently at the council, said, Men, brothers, I've lived in all good conscience before Elohim until this day. And the high priest, Hananiah, commanded those who stood by him to strike him on the mouth. And then Sha'ul said to him, Elohim's going to strike you, you whitewashed wall. And do you sit judging me according to the Torah? And do you command me to be struck contrary to the Torah? And those who stood by said, Do you revile the high priest of Elohim? And Sha'ul said, I did not know, brothers, that he was the high priest. For it's been written, You shall not speak evil of the ruler of your people. Now, Sha'ul, perceiving that one part were Sadducees and the other Pharisees, cried out in the council, Men, brothers, I am a Pharisee, the son of a Pharisee. I'm being judged concerning the expectation and resurrection of the dead. And when he had said this, there came a dissension between the Pharisees and the Sadducees. The crowd was divided. For the Sadducees say, There's no resurrection, nor messenger, nor spirit. But the Pharisees confess both. And there was a great uproar. And certain of the scribes of the party of Pharisees were earnestly contended, saying, We find no evil in this man, and if a spirit or messenger has spoken to him, let us not fight against Elohim. And a great dissension having come, the commander, fearing lest Sha'ul would be pulled to pieces by them, commanded the body of soldiers to go down and seize him from their midst and bring him into the barracks. And on the following night, the master stood by him and said, Take courage, Sha'ul, for as you have witnessed for me in Jerusalem, so you have to bear witness at Rome too. And when it became day, some of the Yahudim made a conspiracy and bound themselves under an oath, saying they would neither eat nor drink until they had killed Sha'ul. And those making this conspiracy were more than 40, who, having come to the chief priests and elders, said, We've bound ourselves under a great oath not to eat at all until we've killed Sha'ul. Now then, you with the council, inform the commander to have him brought down to you tomorrow, as intending to examine him more exactly all about him, and we're ready to kill him before he comes near. And when Sha'ul's sister's son heard of their ambush, he went and entered into the barracks and reported to Sha'ul. And Sha'ul, having called one of the captains to him, said, Take this young man to the commander. He's got something to report to him. He indeed then took him and led him to the commander and said, This prisoner Sha'ul called me to him and asked me to bring this young man to you, having something to say to you. And the commander, having taken him by the hand, went aside by themselves and asked, What is it you have to report to me? And he said, The Yahudim have agreed to ask that you bring Sha'ul down to the council tomorrow, as intending to inquire more exactly about him. Therefore, don't let them persuade you, for more than 40 of them lie in wait for Sha'ul, men who have bound themselves by an oath, neither to eat nor to drink, until they've killed him. And now they're ready, waiting for the promise from you. Then the commander dismissed the young man, having commanded him, Inform no one that you reported this to me. And having called near a certain 2 captains, he said, Get 200 soldiers ready to go to Caesarea, and 70 horsemen, and 200 spearmen after the 3rd hour of the night, and provide beasts on which to place Sha'ul, and bring him safely to Felix the governor. And having written a letter in this form, Claudius Lysias, to the most excellent governor Felix, greetings. This man, having been seized by the Yahudim and being about to be killed by them, I rescued, having come with the body of soldiers, having learned that he is a Roman. And desiring to know the reason they accused him, I brought him before their council. I found out that he was accused concerning questions of their Torah, but there was no charge against him deserving death or chains. And when I was informed that there was to be a plot against the man by the Yehudim, I sent him immediately to you, having also commanded his accusers to state before you the charges against him. Be strong. So the soldiers, as they were commanded, took Sha'ul and brought him by night to Antipatris. And on the next day they left the horsemen to go on with him and returned to the barracks, who, having come to Caesarea and delivered the letter to the governor, they also presented Sha'ul to him. And the governor, having read it, and having asked of what province he was, and being informed that he was from Cilicia, said, I shall hear you when your accusers arrive also. And he commanded him to be kept in Herodes' palace.